So I wasn't planning on making a video until my cold went away. As you guys can tell, I'm a little bit congested and I've been sick for most of the week. But I got the, text update that Kyrie Irving has now demanded a trade away from the Cavs. And so I looked into it. Now LeBron is very upset with Kyrie, and it looks like their chemistry is absolutely crumbling at this point. I mean, the guys especially the role players have gotten a lot older. They have a lot of bad contracts. Tristan Thompson's on an awful contract. JR's on an awful contract. And now they just put Korver on an awful contract. LeBron's already talking about leaving in 2018. Kyrie now wants to leave. They've been trying to trade Kevin Love for at least a season now. The chemistry is crumbling, and it looks like the Cavs no longer have that top spot in the East on lock. So I'm going to discuss in this video 3 teams I think could actually win the East this season if the Cavs' struggles continue, both on and off the court. And I'm just going to make a few quick notes here. I left the Raptors off this list because I actually think they've gotten worse in the offseason. I just don't think they're an elite East team anymore. And you guys all know that I'm a Heat fan, but for me to put the Heat on this list, it would be homerism. I love the Heat. I'm really excited to see what they can do. But realistically, I don't think that putting them in this list would be completely fair at this point. I think there are 3 other teams that I think look a little bit better for this spot at this point. So let's get right into it. So after starting the season 2-8 last season, the Wizards' young core finally gelled, and they managed to go 49-33, and they got to the second round of the playoffs, which was really nice for them. Both Bradley Beal and John Wall had career years. They also got even more production from Otto Porter, who they have now re-signed. They have all of their main role players coming back from last season. Marcin Gortat, Markieff Morris, Kelly Oubre. All of these guys are coming back on the team. They're not going to get any worse, and they can only go up from here, especially if Beal and Wall continue to play better together. So I think that they could probably pose the biggest threat to the Cavs at this point because they're looking like the team in the East that is probably going to push the Cavs the most. So even though I've been very critical of Danny Ainge's bizarre team building strategies over the past 2 or so years, I still think on paper the Celtics look like the most talented team outside of the Cavs at this point. I mean, they still have Isaiah Thomas scoring 29 points per game and doing it very efficiently. Just signed Gordon Hayward, 22 points per game, very great offensive player. Al Horford, while he's definitely not worth the money he's getting, is still a pretty good offensive contributor. And they have a bunch of other young guys who look like they have a lot of potential. They have a lot of guys that are good role players that have shown they can produce on the court. So while I don't necessarily know if this team build is going to work or not, it looks like on paper they are the best team in the East outside of the Cavs this season. So if you know me, you know I've made no secret that I think the Bucks, even though people are starting to realize how good their young talent is, they're still really underrated, and especially Giannis in particular. Giannis is somebody that everyone's already noticed this season. He's been putting up a lot of points. He can do a little bit of everything, but people don't realize he's still underrated. The guy shoots over 50% from the field, averages over a steal and a half per game, and nearly 2 blocks per game. He averages 5.5 assists, barely turns the ball over, and the team has surrounded him with shooters and guys who can spot up, guys who can catch lob passes, and the team overall looks like a very, very underrated sleeper team. They have Chris Middleton at shooting guard, who's one of the best catch-and-shoot guys in the league. They have a young center in Thon Maker, who is built sort of like Kristaps Porzingis. Very, very tall, but underweight at first, and he needed to put on a few pounds. But he has the ability to shoot from outside. He has the ability to drive to the basket. He can run the floor. They also have a really, really nice point guard in Malcolm Brogdon, especially for their system. Brogdon is a guy who can play off-ball and be very successful off-ball, playing at the point guard position, allowing Giannis to control the ball. And then around the All-Star break, when Jabari Parker comes back, they'll have yet another offensive weapon as well. So this team could be sort of like the OKC team in 2011-2012 that went to the finals with their very young core. And although they lost in the finals, those 3 guys that were on that team showed that they were for real. I think the Bucks could maybe do something similar this season, especially if Giannis continues to get better and the players around him continue to get better and they continue to gel as a team. Even if Kyrie isn't traded, even if Kevin Love isn't traded, even if LeBron comes out and says he doesn't want to leave in 2018, the Cavaliers' chemistry in their roster is hanging by a thread at this point. These guys no longer trust each other. They no longer trust the front office. They have a ton of guys that are being overpaid on that roster, and they don't have any young players, any prospects. And if they're not getting along and playing the way that they have the past couple years, there's no reason to think that their spot is still on lockdown at this point. This past season was easily their worst of the LeBron coming back era. And if they can't get along, if they can't get any better as a team, and if their chemistry gets worse, and if they can't surround them with the right players, then there's no reason to think that another team can't sneak in and actually win the East and go to the finals. So the 3 teams I listed, I think, are the most likely. There's also a bunch of other young teams that are interesting and a bunch of other teams that you can never really count out. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I made it last minute because I just wanted to cover this topic. And if you like it, leave a like. Feel free to subscribe if you want more content like this. I'm going to be putting out the Dwayne Wade coming back to the Heat video this weekend. I'd like to wait until my cold goes away, but at this point I'm not sure. So hope you guys have a good weekend.